Welcome to the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. Get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and connected to the miraculous energy of unconditional love that I call Mother Mary. If you're a highly sensitive, highly creative entrepreneur or light worker, and you want to magnify your impact and your intuition, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Reverend Frances Faden, interfaith minister, intuitive coach, and author of Meditation is Friendship with God. I can't wait to share miraculous stories, books, meditations, messages, and interviews with other miraculous light workers just like you. Are you ready to magnify your miracles? What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Frances Faden, and I am so grateful to get to spend this time with you, helping you to magnify your miracles. Today we're going to be talking about a really fun topic, and I have a really fun book to share with you. But let's take a few moments to get ourselves centered, grounded and centered, and really ready. And I love to do this by simply taking a few deep breaths together. If you're driving in the car, please keep your eyes open, but you can still bring your focus to your breath. And as you are breathing in, just give yourself permission to hear and receive whatever it is that you need to hear today to inspire you and to help you move forward. Knowing that whatever that is that you need to hear is going to be exactly what happens today. Let's take one more deep breath together in gratitude, and we can begin. All right, my friend. Well, welcome. I am recording this in January of 2022, but this topic is an evergreen topic. Whenever you're curious about your soul's purpose, people ask me this question all the time. This is a great resource to go back to. So I'm sharing with you this book called Node Astrology, Rediscovering Your Life Direction and Soul Purpose by Elizabeth Spring. And why am I, now you might be like, well, Reverend Frances, I do not want to read a whole entire book on astrology. Like, I don't know anything about astrology. And you might be thinking, I don't even know how to get my chart done or anything like that. But fear not, my friend, because you don't need anything other than your birthday, because this book has a beautiful chart in it that makes it super simple. Now, let me tell you just a tiny little bit that's going to help make this really useful for you. So, there is a service that I do called a Sacred Life Purpose Session, and I usually do it as part of my Magnify Your Miracles mentoring when I'm doing private mentoring with people, teaching them how to magnify their miracles. I usually do a Sacred Life Purpose as one of the first sessions I do. Sometimes I will do these appointments as a standalone appointment, but not too often because I find that the information in and of itself is helpful, but unless you have some support in learning how to live it and integrate it, it's nice to know, but it never goes beyond there. So I usually do it in the context of a program. Now, you might not be ready to do something like that, but you might have some curiosity about your purpose and how it works. And I will say that everybody has a different take on the energy of purpose and what it means and how to do it. And even my take on Sacred Life Purpose is different than what you might read somewhere else. But this book has been so helpful for me because it focuses on a single aspect of astrology called the North and South nodes. Now, if you're familiar with them, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're not familiar with them, let me just say that these two aspects in your chart, in my opinion, are part of the key of helping you discover where to focus your energy to evolve, to really grow, which I think is the purpose. The simplest purpose that we all have is Earth is a school. And we are here to learn, and we are here to increase our awareness of who we actually are. And the universe has given us many, many ways that we can do that. We can do it through our jobs. We can do it through our family. We can do it through creativity. We can do it through spiritual practices. You can do it through connecting with nature. Everything on this planet is set up for you to grow everything on this planet is set up for you to learn and become aware if you choose to. And so the question is, what is it that you need to learn? Where are you growing? Where are you growing? It's what I call your growth direction. What is your growth direction? So the North Node and the South Node, when you're born, these are aspects that relate to the moon. They give us this information. Your South Node is going to tell you everything that you've already done. So it's kind of telling you where you've been, what you're good at. It could be telling you some areas where maybe there is some old things from a past life that needs to be healed. But it basically is telling you what's going to feel really familiar to you, and probably most recently, like your most recent incarnation and what happened there. Not necessarily. You don't have to believe in past lives to get a lot out of this book and out of this process. But your North Node, and I'm rubbing my hands together, I'm like, hoo. The North Node is like the arrow of where your soul is headed. It's not necessarily the most comfortable area for you, but it is the area that your soul will keep directing you towards, because that's the area that you need to create a sense of growth, a sense of balance, and a sense of fulfillment in your life. Now, I'm just going to say I am not a professional astrologer by any means. I'm very much of, an armchair hobbyist, whatever you want to say. I've been studying it since I was about 11 years old, but I've always studied it from the psychological aspect of it to really help me understand myself and understand other people. So I can't tell you a whole lot about all the transits that are going on and predictions. Like, I don't do any of that. And I do respect astrology. I think it is a profound science that we have just scratched the surface of understanding. If you really want to understand it, Vedic astrology goes really deep into the true science of it. But we're not talking about that today. We're just going to talk about helping you understand a little bit about your own life purpose and giving you some ideas. So for me, again, this is what I do for a living. I help people with this all the time. I'm always looking at being on purpose and alignment and all that type of a thing. But I still, have my own questions, because we do not live in a culture that really values us being true to our soul. The culture that we live in is very doing oriented, which is not bad, very accomplishment and very work oriented. So if your purpose and what you're here to learn is not directly related to how you make your income, you're often not supported in that. And that's why I really appreciated this book, because when I read my North Node and my South Node combination, I was like, oh, now I get it. So I'll give you my example. For me, my North Node is in Taurus. My South Node is in Scorpio. So what does that mean? That means that Scorpio is the energy that's very familiar to me. Scorpio is all about going into the deep psyche of yourself and of the world and really studying how things work. And Scorpios often go to extremes, and it can be a lot of drama and all that kind of thing. And, deep psychic mysticism, all kinds of stuff. So of course, I'm born into a family where almost everybody is a Scorpio. Why? Because that's the energy that I'm familiar with. It's a very comfortable energy. Scorpio energy, in a lot of ways, feels like home to me. Not always in a good way does it feel like home to me. It's just a very familiar feeling. And yet, my growth direction is Taurus, which is much more grounded, practical, step by step. It's not about going to extremes. It's really about enjoying life. It's about art and music and beauty and really good food and, having a calm and relaxed kind of life. And this book even says that for those who have this North Node, South Node combination, you're kind of spending this lifetime recovering from whatever happened in your previous lifetime, which I can say is probably true. So a lot of my spiritual gifts that I have, I think, come from that Scorpio South Node. I've obviously spent many, many lifetimes meditating, praying, living in monasteries, probably being a yogi on a mountain somewhere. I've done the deep, deep dive that is the energy of Scorpio. I've done it many, many times, and I'm really, really good at working with people one-on-one and diving right in there. And I can tell you what's going on very, very quickly because it's something that I've probably done many, many times before. The area that I'm really growing in is my North Node in Taurus, which for me happens to be in my 11th house. And that's the house of groups. It's the house of big goals. It's the house of vision. It's the house of community. And guess what? Those are all the things that I love. And my business is really focused on helping people to achieve their big goals, their big vision. And I love creating a community. That's why we have the Magnify Your Miracles membership, is to have that energy of community. So that is moving me in the right direction. And when I read that in this book, it was a huge confirmation for me. So let me share with you a few things to help you see how this book can help you. First of all, the author herself says that this could be 2 different books. And chapter 12 is where you want to start. In my book, it's on page 161. And this will tell you, where's my North Node? Where's your chart? All you need to do is look up your birthday. And so on pages 162 through 164, it starts in 1913 and goes up to 2009 in this book. Now, if you're born after 2009, you're probably not listening to this podcast, I'm guessing. But even if you were born after 2009 and you are listening to this podcast, then you can simply go online and you can look up your chart really, really quickly and free. But this book, I think, is going to cover most of us. And then chapter 13 starts with tracking your karmic journey through your sign. And then she starts with Aries in the north and Libra in the south and goes through all of these beautiful nodal combinations. So that's how you would use this. And then you would look up, well, where's my North Node and where's my South Node? And she even gives some examples of famous people that had this. She gives you examples of how do you know when you're in your South Node and it's not very healthy? How do you know when you're, moving in the right direction? So I'll give you my example again. Let me see here. Okay, so for me, that's still Aries. We don't want to be there. So this is what it would say for me. It says serenity and stability, regaining a sense of the sacred in the ordinary, a sense of having earned by one's own efforts, honoring good traditions and preserving what is valuable for future generations. And as soon as I read that first line, serenity and stability, I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Thank God it's not my imagination, because I am a Gemini, and my Gemini is like, what else can I do? What else can I do? But it's like, oh, good. And on a deep soul level, there's this part of me that's craving that serenity. But the shadow energy is getting into other people's dramas, looking outside of myself, doing things like that. So I'm going to read a little bit about what she says about how to use this book. So this is in the very beginning. She says, how to get the most out of this book, you will need a humble curiosity and an openness to consider a different way of thinking that goes beyond the purely rational. It's a theory. See if it works for you. Whether you are a Jungian analyst or a Baptist minister, a full-time mother, or an older person reflecting on a life mostly lived, it doesn't matter. What matters is an attitude of openness to all the various ways we can say yes to life and all its mystery. So this book is dedicated to you, dear reader. May it help you on your journey. Ways to read the book. How about from beginning to end? That is fine, unless you want to go right to the chapter on the nodes. You'll soon see that this book could have been divided into two books, one just on the nodes and one on the planets and their age-related passages called transits. It was a hard decision, but ultimately I chose to put it all in one book because each part is intricately bound together in a life. It's all food for your intuitive imagination. And it's so true. So as you go through, again, even if you know nothing about astrology, she'll talk to you a little bit about the different planets, different life transits that you have. For example, chapter 5 is all about Jupiter, opening to the gifts of grace, opportunity, and talent. And where is Jupiter in your chart? That you will need to know a little bit more about your chart, but everything else in here, you're okay. She talks about Saturn and the Saturn return. And then how does Uranus show up? How does Pluto show up? So the first half of the book, you can actually, if you're not interested in all of that, you can skip over it because you are going to need to know your chart a little bit more for that. But this whole second part of the book is so fascinating. And then telling you, what house it's in. Again, you'll have to know that you'll know a little bit more about your chart. And what I'll do is I'm going to put in the show notes, I'll put a link to the place that I go where you can get a free natal chart, just in case you do want to look up a little bit more. There's lots of options online right now, places that you can get them for free. And you just need to be able to read them a little bit. But anyway, my friend, I just really recommend this book, North Node Astrology, Rediscovering Your Life Direction and Your Soul Purpose. Because I really feel like rather than being in our heads about what's my purpose, am I doing my purpose? If you know that your soul is meant to be going in a certain direction, it will continue to redirect you in that direction. You don't have to worry about it. I think a lot of people have stress around their purpose. What's my purpose? Do I know my purpose? What if I'm not doing my purpose? And that's not going to help you being stressed about it. And I understand. I've been there myself, and I've had to learn that this purpose is really more of a path. It's a path that will unfold. And I can share with you from my own experience. So I shared with you, North Node is in Taurus, South Node is in Scorpio. In this lifetime, I spent 6 years in an ashram, which is a spiritual community. And that seemed like exactly the right thing to do. It seemed like, I would just want to live here. Of course, it's going to feel that way. How many times have I lived in an ashram? Probably more times than I can count. And it really felt to me like, this makes sense. This is who I am. But Divine Mother knows, and she was guiding my soul, and she made it so that staying in that ashram was not a good idea for me. And so after 6 years, we left, and that's a story in and of itself. But that's an example of how when we try to stay in our South Node, when we try to stay in only what's familiar, only what's comfortable, only what feels familiar to us, your soul will conspire and find a way to get you to grow anyway. So please let go of any stress that you have about it. Let go of that feeling of like, oh no, I don't know what it is. You do know what it is, and your soul is guiding you. It's a place that probably is a little bit of a stretch. Doesn't mean it's scary. And there's a part of your soul that will probably be like, oh, thank you, God, that's what it is once you look it up and realize what it is. So I would love, if you found this book and you looked it up, I'd love to hear from you. What did you think about what she says about your growth direction, your North Node? Did it resonate with you? Did it help you to understand yourself better? For me, I took a lot of pressure off myself to recognize, I am supposed to be having this certain level of lifestyle. It's not my imagination. It's not coming from my ego. It's really coming from my soul, guiding me in a direction that my soul needs to experience in this lifetime. So if you look at your soul's purpose from the perspective of, where do I need to grow? What do I need to learn? Where am I being asked to expand? That will give you a clue as to your purpose. So I'd love to hear more about that if you do get a chance to dive into this book and see how it resonates with you. All right, my friends. So that's the book we're going to start off this new year with. And We have plenty more books to go over as the year goes on. I'm so excited to share so many things and so many authors with you this year. But this year, or this month rather, we're focusing on our direction and our purpose. Node Astrology by Elizabeth Spring. All right, my friend, thank you so much. If you did enjoy this podcast, I would love it if you could share it with your friends, share it on social media, let people know about it. The best thing is if you can go on to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. That would help me out so much. I really appreciate that. And just remember, my friend, that the key to magnifying your miracles is to know that your miracle is already here. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. I'm so grateful to be able to spend this time with you. If you want even more inspiration, feel free to visit my website, francisfaden.com or magnifyyourmiracles.com. And if you did enjoy this episode, I would really appreciate it if you left a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever it is that you connect with awesome podcasts. Remember, the key to magnifying your miracles is remembering that your miracle is already here.